You're choosing a farmer over your own family? My father's voice boomed across his mahogany-filled executive office. This is insanity, Sarah. You've lost your mind. He slammed his fist on the desk, making his CEO of the Year award rattle. My mother sat in her designer suit, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, while my younger sister, Madison, stared at me like I'd grown a second head. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and at 35, I'd finally found the courage to follow my heart, even if it meant walking away from my family's wealth and status. After 15 years of being the perfect corporate daughter, Stanford Business School, a vice president position at Mitchell Enterprises, the whole 9 yards, I was choosing love over luxury. And boy, did that throw my family into chaos. He's not just a farmer, Dad, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Jack runs one of the most successful organic farms in the valley. He's educated, hardworking. He's nobody. My dad cut me off. While you were learning to run a billion-dollar company, he was probably learning to milk cows. Is that what you want, to throw away everything we've built for you to become a farmer's wife? The irony is, I met Jack Wilson at one of my dad's own charity galas. He wasn't even supposed to be there. He was filling in for another local business owner. But there he was, in a slightly outdated suit, talking passionately about sustainable agriculture and his vision for the future. While other men at these events usually tried to impress me with their stock portfolios or vacation homes, Jack spoke about soil conservation and helping small farmers thrive. I've already made up my mind, I told them, standing up straighter. I'm moving in with Jack next week. The wedding's in 3 months, and I hope you'll be there. If you walk out that door, my father said, his voice cold, don't expect to keep your position here or your trust fund or anything else from this family. I looked around the office one last time. The family photos on the wall, all perfectly staged, of course, the views of downtown Seattle, the life I was supposed to want. Then I placed my company ID and credit cards on his desk. Goodbye, Dad, Mom, Madison. I turned and walked out, my heels clicking on the marble floors for the last time. Behind me, I could hear my mom's quiet sobs and Madison's whispered, she's lost it completely. When I tell people I gave up a 7-figure salary and a corner office to live on a farm, they usually think I had some sort of mental breakdown. The reality? Living in Jack's farmhouse these past 6 months has brought me more peace than 20 years in corporate America ever did. Sure, the transition wasn't easy. Trading my Tesla for a pickup truck, my Louboutins for work boots, my penthouse for a century-old farmhouse was a shock to the system. The first time I had to help deliver a calf at 3 in the morning, I almost called my driver out of habit before remembering this was my life now. But there was something real about it all, something my previous life had lacked. My family's reaction was exactly what you'd expect. My mom sent daily texts about good matches from her country club circle. Madison kept forwarding job listings from competing companies. My dad maintained radio silence, though his secretary called monthly to remind me what I was giving up. The trust fund, the connections, the real life they thought I deserved. What they didn't understand was that Jack wasn't some simple farmer. Yes, he worked the land, but he also had degrees in agricultural science and business management. His organic farming operations supplied high-end restaurants across 3 states. He turned his grandfather's struggling farm into a model of sustainable agriculture. But to my family, anyone who didn't make their money in a boardroom was beneath them. The wedding invitations went out last week. My mom returned hers with a note saying she couldn't bear to watch my downfall. Madison, at least, called to decline, blaming a business trip that I knew she'd scheduled specifically for that date. My dad's invitation came back unopened. I was helping Jack review some property documents when something caught my eye. The farm's boundaries extended far beyond what I'd originally thought, including a pristine piece of lakefront property, the same property my dad had been trying to acquire for his new resort development. Oh yeah, Jack said casually. Your father's company has been trying to buy that land for months. They've offered way above market value, but my grandfather promised to keep it agricultural. It's some of the best soil in the valley. I sat there, stunned as the implications sank in. My dad's big resort project, the one he'd been bragging about at every board meeting, couldn't happen without this land, and it belonged to the man he dismissed as just a farmer. I didn't tell Jack about my dad's project right away. I needed time to process this bizarre twist of fate. The next morning, while collecting eggs from the chicken coop, something that still amazed my manicured hands, I got the call I'd been expecting. Sarah, darling, my mom's voice dripped with sudden sweetness. We've been thinking about your situation. Perhaps we were too hasty. Why don't you and Jack come to dinner on Sunday? I nearly dropped my basket. After 6 months of cold shoulders and disapproving messages, this sudden change of heart was suspicious. Then my dad came on the line. "Princess, your mother's right. We should get to know this young man of yours. Maybe we can find a way to make this work. After all, we're family." Standing there in my muddy boots, surrounded by clucking chickens, I finally understood. They must have discovered Jack owned the land. This wasn't about accepting my choices. It was about securing their business interests. The thought made my stomach turn. That evening, I watched Jack working in his office, poring over crop rotation plans. He was completely unaware that he held the key to a multi-million-dollar development deal. When he noticed me staring, he just smiled and asked if I wanted to help him plan next season's organic vegetable program. "My parents invited us to dinner," I said carefully. "They want to make amends." Jack looked up, surprised. "Really? What changed their minds?" I took a deep breath. "I think I know, and we need to talk about something important." Before I could continue, his phone rang. It was his lawyer calling about another offer from Mitchell Enterprises, this time double the previous amount. Jack politely declined, as he had every other offer. When he hung up, he noticed my face. "Sarah, what's wrong?" "That resort they want to build," I said. "It's my father's pet project, the one he's been working on for years. Without this land, it can't happen." Jack was quiet for a moment. "Is that why they suddenly want to meet me? To negotiate?" I nodded, fighting back tears. "I'm so sorry. I should have realized sooner." To my surprise, Jack started laughing. "Your father's been sending increasingly aggressive offers for months, never once mentioning he was your dad. I guess he didn't want to admit his daughter was marrying the stubborn farmer who kept turning him down." Sunday dinner at the Mitchell mansion was exactly the power play I expected. My mom had arranged everything perfectly, her best china, fresh flowers from her greenhouse, and even my favorite childhood dessert. My dad was wearing his closing a deal smile, the same one he used on reluctant investors. "Jack, my boy," my dad boomed as we entered, acting like he hadn't spent months calling Jack a gold-digging nobody. "Welcome to our home. Sarah tells us you're quite the entrepreneur yourself." I watched Jack take it all in. The crystal chandeliers, the original artwork, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle. He looked surprisingly comfortable in his pressed jeans and button-down shirt, so different from the suits that usually occupied these rooms. "Nice place you have here, Mr. Mitchell," Jack said politely. "Those are some beautiful heirloom roses in your garden, though you might want to check them for black spot." I noticed some discoloration on the leaves. My mom nearly choked on her wine. Nobody criticized her prize roses, but Jack was right. I'd noticed the same thing on our way in. He might not know about fine art or fancy wines, but he knew about growing things. Throughout dinner, my dad expertly steered the conversation toward business. "You know, Jack, your sustainable farming methods are fascinating. Have you ever considered expanding with the right investment partner?" "Actually," Jack replied between bites of my mom's roast beef, "we are expanding. Just broke ground on a new greenhouse complex last week. Self-funded, of course." I hid my smile behind my napkin. Jack hadn't mentioned any greenhouse project to me. He was playing my dad at his own game. The tension peaked when my dad finally showed his hand. "About that lakefront parcel," he said casually, swirling his bourbon. "I have some interesting proposals that could benefit us both. Why don't we step into my study to discuss numbers?" "With all due respect, sir," Jack replied, "that land isn't for sale at any price. It's not about money. It's about keeping a promise and protecting something valuable." My dad's face darkened. "Everything has a price, son. Name it." "Not everything, Mr. Mitchell. Not integrity, not promises, and not your daughter's trust." The silence that followed was deafening. My dad's face turned that dangerous shade of red I remembered from childhood board meetings gone wrong. My mom's perfectly manicured fingers gripped her wineglass so hard I thought it might shatter. "Now listen here," my dad growled, dropping all pretense of friendliness. "You clearly don't understand how things work in the real world. That resort would bring jobs, tourism, development. Are you really going to let your stubborn pride stand in the way of progress?" "Progress?" Jack set down his fork. "You mean like paving over some of the most fertile soil in the valley, displacing family farms that have been here for generations? That kind of progress? They'd be well compensated," my dad snapped. "More money than their farms have made in decades." "Until the money runs out," Jack replied calmly. "Then what? They can't eat money, Mr. Mitchell, but they can eat what we grow. That land feeds people, real people, not just rich tourists looking for a weekend getaway." I reached for Jack's hand under the table, squeezing it gently. This was the man I'd fallen in love with, someone who understood that some things mattered more than money. "Sarah," my mom interjected, her voice honey-sweet but desperate. "Surely you can make him understand. Think about your future, darling, your children's future." "I am thinking about the future, Mom. Just not the one you imagined for me." My dad stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "If you walk away now, don't come crawling back when you're tired of playing farmer's wife. There won't be a place for you here anymore." "There hasn't been a real place for me here in years, Dad," I said quietly. I was just too afraid to admit it. But I'm not afraid anymore. Jack and I stood up together. As we headed for the door, Madison finally spoke up from her silent observation. "You're really choosing dirt and tractors over all of this?" She gestured at the opulent dining room. "No, Madison," I replied. "I'm choosing love and purpose over empty luxury. Maybe someday you'll understand the difference." The aftermath of that dinner sent shockwaves through Seattle's business community. My dad tried everything, pressuring local banks to deny us loans, spreading rumors about the farm's financial stability, even attempting to sway Jack's restaurant clients to other suppliers. But he underestimated both Jack's reputation and my own business savvy. 2 weeks later, I was sorting through our mail when I found a thick envelope from Mitchell Enterprises' legal department. Inside was a detailed proposal for a compromise. They'd let us keep half the farmland if we sold the lakefront portion. The offer was accompanied by a personal note from my dad. "Be reasonable, princess. Everyone wins this way." I was about to toss it in the recycling when Jack came in from the fields. "You need to see this," he said, holding up his tablet. On the screen was an email from one of the state's largest organic food distributors. They wanted to partner with us exclusively. Our sustainable farming methods and premium produce had caught their attention. The contract would triple our business overnight. "This is what I was working on instead of Dad's resort," Jack smiled. "We don't need their kind of progress. We're making our own." That evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset over our fields, I drafted a response to my dad's offer. I attached photos of our latest soil analysis reports, showing the exceptional quality of the lakefront property's earth. I included testimonials from local families who depended on our farming co-op program. Finally, I added projected revenue figures for our new distribution contract. "Keep your resort, Dad," I wrote. "We're building something more important." The next day, we received an unexpected visitor. Madison pulled up in her Mercedes, looking comically out of place on our dirt driveway. She stood awkwardly in her designer heels, taking in the scene, me in my work clothes helping Jack load produce for the farmer's market. "I don't understand any of this," she admitted, "but you look happy. Really happy. And that new distribution deal, the board's talking about it, you're actually making waves in the industry, just not the way Dad expected. It was the first crack in the family's united front against us." Madison stayed for dinner, asking genuine questions about the farm, actually listening to our vision for the future. As she was leaving, she paused. "Maybe you could show me around the farmer's market sometime. Life has a funny way of coming full circle." A year after that explosive family dinner, I found myself back in a corporate boardroom, but this time I was representing our farm at a sustainable agriculture conference. Our success story had caught the attention of the organic farming community, and they wanted me to share how we'd managed to turn a traditional family farm into a model of sustainable profitability. As I prepared for my presentation, I spotted a familiar face in the audience, my dad. He sat in the back row, trying to be inconspicuous in his $1,000 suit among the farmers and agricultural specialists. Our eyes met briefly, but neither of us acknowledged the other. I talked about our journey, about choosing purpose over profit, about building something meaningful. I shared how our distribution partnership had exceeded expectations, how our farming co-op program had helped 5 local families start their own organic operations, and how we'd expanded our greenhouse program to supply fresh produce year-round. The questions afterward were mostly technical: soil management strategies, distribution logistics, profit margins. But one young woman asked something different. "Weren't you afraid to leave your corporate career behind?" I couldn't help glancing at my dad as I answered. The scariest decisions often lead to the most rewarding outcomes. Sometimes you have to trust that choosing what's right matters more than choosing what's easy. After the conference, Madison met me for coffee. She'd been visiting the farm regularly, even helping at our weekend farmers market stall. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by casual wear, and she looked more relaxed than I'd ever seen her. Dad's resort project fell through, she told me, stirring her latte. The investors backed out when they realized the lakefront property wasn't available. But here's the interesting part. Mom's been asking questions about our farming operation. I caught her reading books about organic gardening. I laughed at the image of our mother, with her perfect manicure, digging in the dirt. But then Madison turned serious. "She misses you, Sarah. Dad, too, though he'd never admit it. The house feels empty now. All that success, all that money, it doesn't mean much when your family's broken. I never wanted to break the family," I said quietly. "I just couldn't keep pretending to be someone I'm not." "I know that now," Madison replied, "and I think they're starting to understand, too. Dad even defended your business model at a board meeting last week, called it innovative and forward-thinking. 2 months after the conference, we got a surprising piece of mail, an environmental impact study commissioned by Mitchell Enterprises. It detailed the potential ecological damage their resort project would have caused to the valley's water table and soil quality. At the bottom was a handwritten note from my dad. "You were right about the land. Maybe we need to talk." That weekend, my parents' car pulled up our driveway for the first time. My mom was wearing jeans. I'd never seen her in denim in my life. My dad looked older, more subdued. They stood awkwardly on our porch, taking in the windmill, the solar panels, the fields stretching out to the horizon. "Your mother wants to see your greenhouse," my dad said gruffly, "if that's all right." Jack gave them the full tour, explaining our hydroponic systems and vertical farming techniques. My mom actually seemed interested, asking questions about the herbs she'd been trying to grow in her windowsill garden. My dad remained quiet, but I caught him nodding appreciatively at our computer-controlled irrigation system. Over dinner, featuring everything from our own farm, my dad finally spoke up. "The board is interested in establishing a sustainable agriculture division," he said, pushing food around his plate. "They think there's a growing market for it. We could use some expert consultation." I nearly dropped my fork. Was this my father's version of an olive branch? "We're not selling the land, Dad," I said firmly. "I know," he replied, surprising me. "That's not what I'm suggesting. The company needs to adapt, to think about the future differently. You two seem to know how to do that." Later, as Jack and my dad discussed potential collaboration ideas, my mom pulled me aside. "I didn't understand before," she said softly. "I thought you were throwing your life away, but watching you today, the way you light up talking about this place, how proud you are of what you've built. I've never seen you so alive." The sun was setting over the fields as my parents prepared to leave. My dad stopped by the old oak tree in our front yard, the one Jack's grandfather had planted. "You know," he said, "I spent my whole life building things that reach toward the sky. Maybe I should have paid more attention to what grows from the ground up. These days, our farm has become something none of us expected. We still supply organic produce to restaurants and markets, but we've also started an education program. Every weekend, young entrepreneurs and corporate burnouts visit to learn about sustainable farming. Even Madison quit her vice president position at Mitchell Enterprises to help run our training workshops. The biggest surprise? My mom's weekly visits. She started small, helping with the herb garden, but now she manages our entire flower program. Those designer suits are permanently replaced by gardening clothes, and she's never seemed happier. She's even started teaching floral arrangement classes to local kids. My dad's transformation has been more subtle but just as meaningful. While he hasn't traded his business world for farming, he's helped us expand our reach. Mitchell Enterprises now partners with small farms across the state, proving that profit and sustainability can coexist. Last month, he proudly showed me their new corporate mission statement, "Growing success from the ground up," a phrase that made us both smile. Jack and I still laugh about how it all started, my family's horror at their perfect corporate daughter falling for a farmer. But sometimes the worst moments in life lead you exactly where you need to be. We didn't just save a piece of land, we helped heal a family. At a harvest festival we hosted at the farm, as I watched my dad teaching my 3-year-old daughter how to pick strawberries, my mom arranging wildflowers with local children, and Madison giving tours of our new training center, I couldn't help but marvel at life's unexpected turns. The land that once threatened to tear our family apart has become the very thing that brought us back together. The resort never happened, but something better grew in its place: understanding, respect, and a deeper kind of success than any of us had imagined. Jack joined me on the porch, dirty from working in the fields but grinning. "Think you made the right choice?" he asked, wrapping an arm around me. I watched as my dad scooped up our daughter, both of them laughing as they headed toward my mom's flower garden. The setting sun painted the fields golden, and the evening air was sweet with the smell of ripening fruit and fresh herbs. "You know," I said, "I don't think I chose between my family and the farm after all. I just helped them see there was room for both. Sometimes the biggest risks lead to the greatest rewards." I may have walked away from one version of success, but I walked into something far more precious, a life rich with purpose, love, and the kind of wealth you can't measure in dollars.